The Russian agent Donald Trump has completely disgraced America today. The only country to join Russia in voting against the UN resolution to condemn Russia's war against Ukraine was the United States of America. Now, Donald Trump is a terrible businessman. The background behind all this is he couldn't get a loan from a U.S. bank, so he turned to Russian money to launder money to his properties. Donald Trump was receiving laundered money from Russians to keep his business empire afloat. He is completely beholden to the Russian oligarchs who made all of that possible. Without Russia's help, Donald Trump does not keep his businesses afloat. As a six-time bankrupt businessman. What a disgrace. The United States sides with North Korea and Russia over its democratic allies. There's been no greater need to impeach Donald Trump than today. And combine all of this with Article 1 of the Constitution being overridden. Elon Musk is making these decisions. He picks and chooses where the money goes as far as which agencies are running. So there are many charges that can be brought up to the Congress, but let's stick with the subject in hand. So you have to understand that Russia wants to weaken NATO. Putin targeted the polling places in the battleground states. He targeted specifically predominantly African American polling locations just because he was trying to slow down the Democratic vote. So these were the efforts that Russia made for this past election. You know, the big talking point is that, why do we spend all this money on Ukraine? But then when you do the math, only a fraction of the total budget goes towards the effort in Ukraine. As a matter of fact, the figure comes out to under 1% of the total GDP of America went towards fighting Ukraine. Because you have to keep in mind, billions is only a fraction of a multi-trillion dollar deficit. So that's the deficit we're talking about. That's not the total amount of spending. So the aid to Ukraine constitutes a very small amount of GDP for several nations. The US, Germany, and the UK have mobilized less than 0.2% of their annual GDP to support Kiev. So it's barely, not even 1% of the total GDP per year is going towards Ukraine. And then Donald Trump is saying, oh, they're borrowing all this money for Ukraine. We're not getting paid back, this and that, this and that. Macron stated that hard cash is going towards the war, real money. A simple fact check. Europe is not loaning any money to Ukraine. They're paying they're giving them real money. This is not a loan from a printing press. So what happened during the past week before this UN resolution? He has falsely claimed that Ukraine should have never started the war. Excuse me? Ukraine invaded Russia? Do I have that right? Ukraine was the one that got invaded on. Russia was the one that started the war, was the aggressor. So this is completely irrelevant what we're dealing with. Question the legitimacy of a democratically elected government in Ukraine? This is mind-boggling, completely going against all of our allies for over 50, 60 years of NATO, and America is turning its back on Western Europe. Now, I'll tell you what Ukraine has to do with Taiwan. Basically, if Vladimir Putin's not going to stop at Ukraine, he wants to reestablish the USSR. So when we do get attacked, so when the West gets attacked, that is when China is going to step in and take over Taiwan. China's not going to do so until Putin invades Europe. And mind you, when Europe gets invaded, the Russian asset Donald Trump is going to withdraw the United States from NATO, so they no longer get any help from the United States should they get attacked by Europe. This is what Vladimir Putin wants from Donald Trump, to withdraw from NATO so he can weaken the rest of the Europeans. He wants to retake what used to be part of the old Soviet Union. When Putin gets what he wants, the U.S. withdrawing from NATO, invading other territories, that is precisely when Taiwan is going to get invaded by Xi Jinping. So it's not going to happen until Russia attacks after the U.S. withdraws from NATO. So, okay, the hoax bombing, bomb threats, Russia was trying to slow down the Democratic vote. This delayed the votes in these key swing states, targeting predominantly African-American polling locations. Now, there is a tweet from an ex-KGB officer alleging that Donald Trump was an asset to Russia ever since 1987. He was recruited as a Russian spy in 1987 and given the code name Krasnov. A former KGB officer is now alleging that Donald Trump has been a Soviet asset since the late 1980s. In the mainstream media ran the story on the Daily Beast, and then a day later it got removed. What threats were received from Donald Trump to make the Daily Beast unpublish their story just a day later? Why are these media companies scared of Donald Trump? I don't understand it. Donald Trump is not the winning side. Intelligence reports from the mid-1980s revealed that the KGB has updated its recruitment strategy, instructing officers to target influential Western figures for potential collaboration. The goal is to turn them into agents, confidential informants, or at the very least friendly contacts within the capitalist world. So this is the tweet from the former KGB officer. Trump went by the name of Krasnov, apparently. This doesn't surprise anybody because, again, Donald Trump could not get a loan from the U.S. bank, so he had to turn to Russian cash. Now, Donald Trump is not a puppet of Russia, and Vladimir Putin is fake news. Well, why couldn't the United States vote to at least condemn Russia for invading Ukraine if he's not a Russian asset? Ukraine should have attacked, Ukraine should make concessions, blah, blah, end the war, but there were no Ukrainians at the negotiation table. It's only the U.S. and Russia talking. That's not negotiating to end the war, not even involving Ukraine at the negotiation table. Donald Trump negotiated with the Taliban without involving Afghanistan's own government at the negotiation table. Thousands of Afghani or Taliban fighters were released. Krasnov is Gamachev, the 44th person to be the president, which was Donald Trump. This article is from 2018. I can't use that. Right after the meeting at Trump Tower to dig dirt on Hillary Clinton, he accepted a fine gift from an oligarch right after that infamous meeting at Trump Tower. It was June of 2015. I think it was June the 9th, if I have it right. But Elon Musk controls Donald Trump. The oligarchs obviously want their big tax breaks. They don't want oversight into crypto and artificial intelligence. But these big tech grifters are opportunistic. They went from donating to the Democrats and suddenly we want this outright fascist, libertarian, let's dismantle everything kind of government. Elon Musk runs the show. He's in constant contact with Putin since 2022. Elon runs the show. Elon Musk, mind you, could be a foreign asset too. He's not even born in this country. Everything the Republicans accused of Obama of being is and ironically, is what Elon Musk is actually is. Background of the first Trump turn, the oligarchs within the Donald Trump administration. Obviously, the Russian oligarchs were there for the inauguration of Donald Trump. Oleg Deripaska, Russian billionaire, close ties to Vladimir Putin, will be back in touch soon. He was in constant contact with his campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who was also a foreign agent. One Russian billionaire hosted Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner, at a gala in Moscow in 2014. Another links to a $500,000 payment to Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, in 2017. What was that about? A third ran a propaganda operation that pumped pro-Trump content into the news feeds of millions of American voters. A fourth tycoon arranged the meeting where a Russian lawyer offered dirt on Hillary Clinton at infamous Trump Tower meeting. And Deripaska, that Russian billionaire, got the chairman of the presidential campaign, Manafort, on the line. They're doing nothing wrong to advance Russian interests home and abroad over the United States. So here's a good chart, the web of influence. Head of the industrial empire in contact with Manafort, and son of a real estate tycoon, state-sponsored oligarchs. They're granted monopoly power, in contact with Donald Trump. Putin's chef, Prigozhin, who runs the mercenary Wagner Group, financed an online propaganda firm, receiving the propaganda in their news feeds, American voters. This oligarch was in contact to send the payment to Michael Cohen. You see, it's a whole web, it's a whole network that were involved in getting Donald Trump elected. Fierce propaganda campaign and targeting polling sites even during 2016. But you know the agenda, it is to weaken the West so Vladimir Putin can reestablish the old USSR. This is the end game. America's siding with a brutal foreign dictator over its democratic allies, a complete disgrace. How long can this continue until the 25th Amendment's invoked? We could be at risk of World War III because of this very threat of NATO going away, in the region getting worse, because one thing is guaranteed. If you look at Adolf Hitler's deal with Hitler-Chamberlain, he didn't stop there at Czechoslovakia. I think he invaded Poland right after negotiating a peace deal. So history says Putin is not going to stop at Ukraine. Only a complete gullible person would think he only wants Ukraine. He only wants Ukraine, but but he wants the U.S. to withdraw from NATO. He's eyeing other prey. He's eyeing Europe without any American military help. It's about reestablishing the old Russian Empire is what it's about. And a useful idiot, Donald Trump, could not have kept his businesses without Russian oligarch support. So now he is completely beholden to these same Russian oligarchs that laundered money to Donald Trump's businesses, to his real estate empire. Will we be in World War III? No American lives are going to get sacrificed. This isn't anything like World War I and World War II. Donald Trump certainly has to be impeached for breaking his oath to the United States and to the Constitution against all enemies, domestic and foreign. He is breaking that constitutional oath. He is giving legislative powers to Elon Musk. Article 1 is violated if he ignores court orders to hijack the checks and balances of the judicial branch. That is an impeachable offense. Now Donald Trump voters are finding out the fuck around, find around phase, losing their jobs. Those of them that are employed in the government. He thought he was only going to target brown people. It turns out they were targeted as well. Fuck around, find out. Oh, he's not going to go after me. Oops. He said he was going to go after you. He's going to go after your Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. This is what exactly he said he was going to do. And now it's interesting that he recited a poem of a snake. It was this sick snake, and someone helps it heal up or whatever, and then it bites the person with a venomous bite. Well, I told you, I am a snake. It's like he's mocking his own supporters. You believe the snake. That poem, the person helps heal the snake, but the snake still bites it. Well, you knew I was a snake. Donald Trump is mocking his own supporters. Remember he said verbatim, I don't care about you, I want your vote. He could care less about anybody right now. But this is very damning. Even China voted for the resolution. Even China did. Condemning Russia's attack in Ukraine. Even China supported it. Only the United States of America condemned it. That just screams Russian asset right there. He doesn't care. He thinks he's going to be in office for life. Hopefully, this really isn't the end of this democratic constitutional republic. Either the CIA gets involved or Elon invokes the 25th Amendment because Elon Musk is running the show. You know Elon's going to get tired of Donald Trump. You know he is. If Elon becomes unpopular or whatever, he's going to scapegoat Donald Trump for all this. But still, he's still going to control J.D. Vance as well. What is this all going to lead up to? Who's still going to be in the White House? Surely this cannot continue. Donald Trump helping a ruthless foreign dictator, and the rest of the West is in jeopardy of getting invaded if the U.S. does indeed withdraw from NATO. All eyes on the future of the NATO alliance that is designed to help counter and serve as a check against Russian aggression. And now, when Donald Trump does this, Putin's ready to reclaim the old Soviet empire. And when the U.S. gets involved in the invasion of these other territories by the Russian military, China is going to be ready to take over Taiwan.